What a morning this has been to wake up to with all the developments that have happened across the globe. We'll tell you all of that and how does that impact us over the next 30 minutes on Power Breakfast and on CNBC TV 18. I'm Hormuz Fatakia. With me as always is Vamakshi Dhoria. Vamakshi, good morning. All set for a very big day.
Well, absolutely, Hormaz. It looks like after 2 days of, some bit of selling pressure that came through, we might see a positive start. Definitely a positive surprise to start with. And there's a lot lined up on the show. Let's get started with the top headlines. A federal trade court strikes down reciprocal tariffs that President Trump imposed on what he called Liberation Day, putting an immediate stop to the collection of a sweeping set of levies. Dow futures jump over 500 points and the dollar index surges above 100.
All major US indices ended lower overnight ahead of some important announcements, but the Asian markets have opened sharply higher following the US court order on the reciprocal tariffs. The Nikkei is up over 1%. The GIFT Nifty is also indicating a positive start for our own markets.
SEBI passes ex parte interim order in the IndusInd Bank insider trading case, finds prima facie violations by 5 bank executives, including former CEO Sumant Katpalia, orders impounding nearly 20 crore rupees, bars all the 5 executives from the market till further orders.
In relief coming in for former SEBI chairperson Madhabi Buch and her husband as anti-corruption ombudsman Lokpal refuses to probe allegations against them, calling the charges palpably unfounded and devoid of merit.
Elon Musk announces that his role as a special government employee in the Trump administration has come to an end. This follows his recent comments where he expressed concern that President Trump's beautiful tax bill could increase the national deficit and work against Dodge's objectives.
As you just mentioned, that the Dow futures are up 500 points after that US court struck down the reciprocal tariff imposition, calling it illegal, and that has rubbed off on the Asian markets as well. The Nikkei, as we just mentioned, is up 1.5%. The Kospi too trading with gains of 1.25%. The Seng was supposed to open lower as the futures were indicating, but that too now trading in the positive territory, 0.5% higher for the Seng, and the Taiwanese index too trading with gains of around 0.7%. The Shanghai Composite also trading 0.4% higher. So it's a positive sentiment across the equity screen in the Asia Pacific and of course on the US futures as well, even though the markets there ended lower. Pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and whether that is indicating a similar start, yes it is, and an 80-point uptick is what we are anticipating, is what the implied open is suggesting right now for our own markets. The earlier GIFT Nifty ticks were around 50 to 60 points, so it is building onto those gains, and 80-point uptick is what we are anticipating, Vamakshi.
Well, absolutely, Hormaz. Like you rightly pointed out, the focus will now be on the Dow futures rather than what actually happened in the US market. But let's recap that. Wall Street ended Wednesday's trading session lower as investors digested a wave of earnings reports and the latest Federal Reserve meetings minutes. The Dow ended more than 240 points in the red, while the S&P 500 closed 33 points lower. The tech-heavy Nasdaq closed with a loss of 98 points. In fact, CNBC's Steve Leisman has more from the Fed Minutes. Listen in.
Fed officials said current monetary policy was moderately restrictive, allowing the committee to take a more cautious approach until the effects of government policies were more clear. The committee said they were well positioned to wait for more clarity on inflation and economic outlooks. The risk for higher inflation and higher unemployment both had risen. And remember, this meeting came before the May 12th relaxation of those China tariffs. Almost all participants were concerned about more persistent inflation from the tariffs, and also they were concerned about the difficult trade-off if inflation was persistent and you had weaker growth. On the issue of weaker growth, the staff saw weaker growth in 2025 and 2026. The Fed said ultimately the effects of changing government policy and impact to the economy were highly uncertain. That word uncertain comes up quite a bit here. Certainly about the economic outlook, almost all participants noted the risk of inflation could prove more persistent, and they assessed tariffs on intermediate goods could lead to more persistent inflation. Guys, I think I'll leave it there. I'm just looking through more of these headlines. They really amount to the same thing. Some participants saw businesses limit hiring because of the elevated uncertainty. Several members noted downbeat sentiment among manufacturers. A few members commented that retailers were downbeat due to perceived tariff impact. But I guess what we don't know is how much the world has changed since May 12th. Then the threat of the European tariffs put on, taken off. I think the uncertainty is high, but maybe the immediate danger of tariffs is it has abated a bit.
Well, that's all from the global market action, and there is a lot of action in the global markets. But how will all of this overnight and early morning cues impact our own markets? Our research team now joins in with the trade setup, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and of course the setup on the F&O side of things as well. Firstly, Vinny joins in to get all the market cues that we need to watch out for. Vinny, good morning. After 2 days of a bit of consolidation, it's expiry today, of course, and we are bracing for a gap up.
Absolutely. We're watching out for a gap up this morning, but just taking a look at what happened yesterday. Now, obviously, like you mentioned, second consecutive day of fall and consolidation that we saw coming in for the benchmark indices. Nifty closed below the 24,800 level, so that'll be important to watch out for today. As of now, yes, a positive start is indicated, but given that market expiry is there, a monthly expiry is there, so that is something to watch out for. Sensex was closed lower by around 240 points, 81,300 levels. Around that mark is what the Sensex closed at. Mid and small cap that continued to outperform in yesterday's trading session as well, though the mid cap managed to actually just hold on to a slight bit of the negative side or a flat line at what it closed at. But that was a key factor to watch out for in terms of outperformance versus the benchmark indices. We saw the FMCG and the auto pack continuing to be a bit of a drag in yesterday's trading session, while FIIs continue to be buyers. We saw FIIs buying around 4,662 crores yesterday, as well as DIIs also continued to be buyers, 7,911 crores in terms of what we saw coming in as a buying over there. Factors to watch out for today, monthly expiry like we mentioned, a lot of commentary that's coming in on the global front. The federal court has blocked Trump tariffs, so that is something that the market will be reacting to. Other than that, we'll obviously have the industrial production data from India, IIP data that came in, not bad data point coming in there, so that will be something that India will react to. FOMC minutes meeting, that's a reaction there, as well as Nvidia earnings is what we'll be reacting to. So a lot of positive signs that have come in. That's why we are maybe an indication coming in of a gap up start. Will it sustain will be key to watch out for in the markets.
Oh, absolutely, and Nvidia's earnings were above expectations, and that too is adding to the boost that the US futures are receiving in today's session. But a commonality among the last few trading sessions has been that the action has been pretty stock specific, and Vamakshi will tell us what are the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for today.
Well, Horma's stock-specific action is likely to continue today as well. Lots of earnings, that came through. We're at the fag end of the earnings season. But let's get started with SAIL then. The numbers were above estimates. The revenue saw an uptick of 4.9%. The margins have contracted to 11.9%. And the net profit is seeing an uptick of almost 11%. Largely, the numbers have come in much higher as compared to the CNBC TV18 poll. Cummins has met its double-digit growth guidance for FY25. The revenue has seen a marginal uptick of 6.4%. We were going with an expectation of double-digit uptick in the revenue, but that seems to have missed, mainly on account of the subduedness in the domestic market. But the margins and the operational performance of the company has been quite good. Welspun Corp, the revenue has seen a downtick of almost 12%. The margins have increased to 11.7% from 7.5%. The EBITDA margin, though, the EBITDA rather has come in almost 39% higher. This is at a 5-quarter high. Deepak Nitrite's revenue saw an uptick of 2.4%. The margins have improved slightly to 14.5%, but the net profit is taking a downtick of almost 20%. Mishra Dhatu Nigam will also be in focus on the back of its numbers. Revenue was rather flat, up only 1%. The margins have improved substantially to 22.8%, and the order book position of the company stood at 1,832 crores. Novama Wealth reported a rather decent set of numbers. Revenue saw an uptick of almost 8% sequentially. The margins have declined by 492 basis points, and the net profit is up only 1.4%. So those are some of the counters that you'll be watching out for in trade today. But now moving on to the F&O space then, and we now have Mangalam joining in with cues from that. Good morning, Mangalam. Seems like we're off to a great start.
Seems like we're off to a great start, but so much happened overnight, both locally as well as globally, that if you had to pick one day for all these news pieces to come by together, it would have had to be a special day, and that is what it is. It is the May series expiry day in today's trading session. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a positive start. The Nifty itself has gained about 500 points in May series, making it the third straight series of gains for the frontline index. If you look at the series gains, March was up 4.6%. We had April up 2.8%. May so far is up 2.1%. And indications are that it'll start fast as well. But the important part is, where do we go from here? May series, just the gain does not do justice to the sort of volatility that we saw in the series. Earlier in the series, because of the border skirmish, we saw the Nifty go below 24,000, and at one point it went above 25,000 as well. Yesterday's cash market flows, both the DII and FII flows put together, were close to around 12,000 crores, and that is completely explained by the large trade by BAT, where they sold about 12,100 crore worth stake in ITC, and that is what is reflecting in the cash market flows. However, with the positive start that the GIFT Nifty is indicating, we're also going with a lot of short fuel. FIs have been writing in index futures for the last 2 trading sessions, nearly 5,000 crore worth sale, and they've added 8,500 shorts in yesterday's session as well. So if you look at it from May 26th to now, the FII short exposure has increased by about 6 percentage points, and we have the net contracts increasing by about 30,000 contracts as well. So if the market sustains gap up, then perhaps there could be some short covering. The FIs have also written more puts, telling you that lower levels would be supported for the frontline index, and 24,750 put as well as 24,650 put are seeing a lot of writing, and 24,800 call along with 24,750 call have seen a fair amount of writing as well. The Nifty sees support at 24,600 to 650, opens right in the resistance zone of 24,850 to 24,900. RBL Bank is the one stock which is out of F&O ban.
Indeed, we'll keep an eye out on RBL Bank out of the F&O ban today, and of course a whole host of other stocks, of course, earnings reactions and those reporting earnings today as well. Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. Take a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, the Securities and Exchange Board of India has passed an interim order in the high-profile insider trading case involving key managerial personnel of IndusInd Bank, including the bank's former CEO and other senior executives. The regulator has barred 5 individuals from buying or selling securities and has frozen their bank accounts. Ritu is here to give us more details. Ritu?
Well, SEBI has barred former MD and CEO of IndusInd Bank Suman Katpalia, former Deputy CEO Arun Khurana, and 3 other senior executives for alleged insider trading. Now, this comes as part of an interim order that was passed by the regulator pending the conclusion of its investigation. For now, SEBI has impounded the bank accounts of these 5 key managerial personnel to the extent of the losses that they allegedly avoided through insider trading, amounting to 19.78 crore rupees in total. Now, Arun Khurana, the former Deputy CEO, made the largest gains by far, with his account impounded for 14.4 crore rupees, which is the extent of the losses he avoided. Suman Katpalia, the former CEO, follows with 5.2 crores. Sushant Saurav, the head of Treasury Operations, for 7.14 lakh rupees. Rohan Jatanna, Senior VP of Global Markets, for 6.87 lakh. And Anil Rao, interestingly, the Chief Administrative Officer of the bank, who's also part of the Executive Committee, who's currently overseeing the bank in the absence of a new CEO, has also been impounded for 3.94 lakh rupees. Now, according to SEBI, all 5 of these executives sold shares of IndusInd Bank during the UPSI, or the unpublished price-sensitive information period, between the 4th of December 2023 and the 10th of March this year, without making any purchases. The regulator found that these trades helped them avoid losses that would have occurred if the information had been made public at the time. Now, as part of the interim order, all of them have been barred from buying, selling, or dealing in securities directly or indirectly until further notice. They have also been prohibited from making deposits or withdrawals from their bank accounts without SEBI's approval, and they've been directed to submit a full inventory of all their assets to the regulator. Now, apart from these 5 individuals, SEBI is also examining the roles of other suspects who have not been named. We've already seen the former CEO and Deputy CEO exit the bank, and this order may now have repercussions for others who are found guilty of insider trading. The order, keep in mind, is going to remain in force until SEBI concludes its final investigation in the matter.
Ritu, thanks a lot for that. IndusInd Bank, definitely one of the stocks to watch out for in today's trading session. Now, in a major relief to former SEBI chief Madhabi Buch, the Lokpal held that no grounds have been made for directing an investigation against her under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Ashmit is now joining in with more details on this. Ashmit.
Well, the prayer that had been sought by the complainant is that there needs to be an investigation under the Prevention of Corruption Act. The finding that the Lokpal has given at the end of this brief order, it's not very long, about 36 odd pages. Here what the Lokpal says is that some of the allegations that have come are bordering frivolous, that they have not been substantiated with facts, and therefore as a result, no fit case, no grounds have been made out for launching an investigation. And in doing so, Lokpal granting relief to Madhabi Buch, the former SEBI chief. Now what's important is that these complainants had raised various multiple issues with respect to conflict of interest, with respect to quid pro quo. They had flagged her investments that she had made in certain funds that were linked to the Adani Group. There were questions regarding quid pro quo being raised with regarding consultancy income, with regarding rental income, with respect to sale of her ESOPs from her ICICI Bank days. Now, on all of those questions, the finding that the Lokpal has given is that a bulk of these charges and questions that have been raised on the back of the Hindenburg report, which came in context of Adani Enterprises. Having said that, what the Lokpal concludes is that that report alone by a US-based short seller is not grounds enough for escalation into a probe. There has to be other criteria that has to be met. But unfortunately, what the Lokpal says is that those criteria have not been met, going on to say that the allegations are untenable, they're unsubstantiated, they're bordering frivolity, they're presumptuous, and also then finally going on to say that there is no verifiable material to back those allegations, to back those questions. So on that count, Lokpal making it clear, no fit case made out for launching an investigation under the Prevention of Corruption Act.
Well, thank you so much for that, Ashmit. But let's slip into a very short break. Up next, we get you cues from the commodities market. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Getting you the latest now on the developments related to Donald Trump. Dia is joining in our special segment, Trump Watch.
The big news this morning from the United States, a federal trade court has struck down the reciprocal tariffs that President Trump imposed on what he called Liberation Day, putting an immediate stop to the collection of a sweeping set of levies. The ruling from a 3-judge panel at the New York-based U.S. Court of International Trade came after several lawsuits arguing Trump has exceeded his authority and left the country's trade policy dependent on his whims. The other news that's making loud headlines, and it is billionaire Elon Musk at the center of it. Musk announces that his time as formal advisor to President Donald Trump is coming to a close, raising questions about the future of the Department of Government Efficiency effort he spearheaded. Meanwhile, President Trump is firing back at Wall Street's latest jab, the so-called taco trade, short for Trump always chickens out. The nickname reflects investor bets that Trump will not follow through on tough tariff threats. But Trump says his pullbacks are strategic, a way to gain trade concessions, not a sign of weakness. Let's listen to what he said.
And then I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation.
In a move drawing legal and institutional backlash, Trump said Harvard University should cap foreign student enrollment at 15%, ratcheting up his effort to force policy changes at the elite institution. Harvard University said the Trump administration's ban on enrolling international students is already causing harm and spreading fear, even though a judge has temporarily barred the order from taking effect. Let's listen to what the bite is.
We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be. You're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. These countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of our, we are. So why would 31%, why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people who want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. will revoke visas for Chinese students, escalating the Trump administration's push for greater scrutiny on foreigners attending U.S. universities. Rubio said in a post on X that students affected would include those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. He also added that this would also include those who target American technology companies. Moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump said he told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that a military strike against Iran would risk disrupting efforts to broker a deal on Tehran's nuclear program. The U.S. president added that he believed a deal with Iran could be completed within the next couple of weeks and that talks had made a lot of progress. President Trump also said he's holding off on new sanctions against Russia in order to preserve the chance for a deal with President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Lastly, sources tell Bloomberg that the Trump administration is telling immigration officials to ramp up arrests to 3,000 per day with a goal of more than 1 million a year, a target that would significantly escalate the pace of detention. That's all for today. Now back to you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dia. But moving on then, let's look at what the world of commodities is doing. We now have Manisha Gupta joining in with all the updates from the commodity space. Good morning, Manisha.
Morning, and thank you for that, Ramakshi. Well, we are looking at, or rather, all the asset classes are reacting to the U.S. federal ruling that Trump has overstepped authority on imposing reciprocal tariffs. That's unlawful to all, and orders should be vacated and blocked. So the markets, while they're looking at the next step that the Trump administration will take, we already have seen those reactions come into the market. The dollar index is now trading above 100, a sharp surge onto that one. And the gold and silver prices have seen a decline in the overnight markets and early Asia as well, as the risk-on sentiment comes back into the market. The crude oil prices are the first ones to react, and we are trading above $65 a barrel. Also, what is aiding and supporting crude is the OPEC and allies meeting, which concluded yesterday with maintaining the current output quota and not increasing it. While, of course, there's another meeting today as well, and the markets will wait for reaction from that. In the meanwhile, the metal prices have continued to trade off highs. You have copper, which is off its 4-week highs. Nickel has declined to a 6-week lows. Steel rebar in China is now trading at an 8-month lows, and the decline clearly is seen in case of sugar as well. That one is trading at a 4-year lows as well. A very sharp cut coming in for sugar prices globally in the overnight markets.
Indeed, plenty of reactions across asset classes. Manisha, thanks a lot for that. We call time on this edition of Power Breakfast from Amakshi, me and the team that put this show together. Thank you so much for watching. We leave you with the Dow futures 550 points higher and the implied open also suggesting a gap up start. Bazaar morning call on the other side.